Good evening, my students. Welcome to our second lecture of English Prose. Today, we are going to discuss the topic or the interesting topic about approaches and methods. Anyway, as you can see, the first one of our discussion today is about the domain of style. So what the domain of styles mean? It refers to the word style to the way in which language is used in a given context by a given person for a given purpose and so on. So when we talk about style particularly, we specifically talk about in which language is used. For example, in a given context, by a given person, or for a given purpose. And then we have to clarify this one. Here, we may adopt the Swiss linguist Saussure's distinction between langue and parole. Okay, to clarify the term style, it would be better to distinguish between langue and parole adopted by the Swiss linguist Ferdinand de Saussure. Here, language being the code or system of rules common to speakers of a language. Language being the code or system of rules common to speakers of a language, such as English. Okay, language, in short, we can determine or give the definition. It is a kind of code or system of rules common to speakers of a language. Here, I deliver the example of English language itself. Meanwhile, parole or parole being the particular uses of this system or selection from this system that speakers or writers make on this or that occasion. So, parole, in short, we can define it as the particular uses of the system of language itself, or selection from the system of the language. So here, please pay attention to the distinction between language and parole to refer to the word style. The second one, we will talk about English expressions belonging styles. Previously, we have talked about style itself, but now we will talk about English expressions belonging styles. Certain English expressions belong to the official style of, for example, weather forecasting. So when you listen to the weather forecasting, you may hear or you may listen to some specific technical terms. For example, bright intervals, scattered showers, etc. While other expressions, for example, lovely day, a bit chilly, etc. They belong to the style of everyday conversational remarks about the weather. They belong to the styles or expression, belonging style in weather forecasting. Like I said before, bright intervals, scatter showers, etc., and lovely day or a bit chilly. They or all of them belong to the English expression of weather forecasting styles. I hope every student will understand this one when in the next time you will be asked by the other students or lecturers about what are mean by styles. It is specific styles in forecasting, especially weather forecasting. So style then pertains to parole or parole. It is selection from a total linguistic repertoire or repertoire that constitutes a style. So here, style pertains to parole. Okay, pertains to parole. Style cannot be separated from parole. Okay, they have the mutual assistance so that style could not be separated from the parole. Okay. After discussing about style, now we turn to the stylistic. Okay. Stylistic, simply defined as the linguistic study of style, is rarely undertaken for its own sake, simply as an exercise in describing what use is made of language. After knowing about the style, and now you have to know about what stylistic means. So here, stylistic simply defined as the linguistic study of style. Okay, the linguistic study of style. So here, maybe when you study about algebra, okay, what we call in science, biology, it is a kind of science knowledge. So in stylistic, we study about style. So here, when we want to study style, the term of knowing the systematic study about style is called as the stylistic. In stylistic, there is a problem to relate critic concern of aesthetic appreciation with linguist concern of linguistic description. So in stylistic, there is usually a problem to relate critics' concern of aesthetic appreciation with linguist concern of linguistic description. So here you will find the contradiction between the aesthetic value and the linguistic description itself. Okay, because in linguistic is more concerned with the description. Meanwhile, in stylistic is more concerned with the appreciation, sorry, the aesthetic value of the language. Okay, so there is a problem to relate these critics. And then the task of stylistic is to provide a hard and fast technology of analysis, which is not the case. The goal of explaining the relation between language and artistic function. The image used by Spitzer of the philological circle, the circle of understanding, is more appropriate. So here, the main point or the outline of describing about stylistic. Stylistic is defined as the linguistic study of style. So like we talk about linguistic, what is linguistic? Linguistic is the systematic study of language, like that. And then in stylistic, we concern to the aesthetic appreciation, while in linguistic, we concern to the linguistic description. So in stylistic, there is usually problem to relate both of them. Okay, and now we have the terms style and content. There is a strong tradition of thought which restricts style to those choices which are choices of manner rather than matter, of expression rather than content. Some such variation is implied in common definition of style as a way of writing or a mode of expression. This approach may be called dualist because it rests on an assumed dualism in language between form and meaning. So when you talk about style and content, there is usually a strong tradition of thought which restricts style to those choices which are choices of manner rather than manner. So here, style is more concerned to the manner. Meanwhile, content is more concerned to the manner. And it, what we call it brings about, or it gives us the term of dualist. Okay. So to break down this problem, it needs, or it is needed, the approach that may be called dualist, because it rests on an assumed dualism in language between form and meaning. Okay, form of the style and meaning of the content. So when you want to explore both of them well, you have to use the approach that may be called as the dualist. So do you get the point? Paham ya? So when you want to break down the problem of combining style and content, you have to deliver the approach of dualist, because style is relatively concerned to the form or the manner. Meanwhile, content is more concentrated to the matter or the meaning. Okay, and now we have style as the dress of thought, one kind of dualism. The distinction between what a writer has to say and how it is presented to the reader underlies one of the earliest and most persistent concepts of style, that of style as the dress of thought. So style is what we call here is imagined or described as the dress of thought, okay, between what a writer has to say and how it is presented to the reader. The style has the dress of thought as metaphor of style as some kind of adornment or covering of thought of meaning. So here, the style is represented as the dress of thought as metaphor of style as some kind of adornment or covering of thought of meaning. Thought or meaning. So here, style has the important role as what we call here some kind of adornment or covering of thought or meaning. It functions to cover the thought or the meaning that the writer wants to represent to the reader. The adornment theory was first appeared in Renaissance and Rationalist pronouncement on style and is implicit, for example, in Pope's well-known definition of wit. So the adornment of style was first appeared in the Renaissance age and rationalist pronouncement on style. The appropriateness of adornment theory cannot be altogether dismissed in the case of artificial style cultivated by such Renaissance mannerists as Sidney and Lilly. Take part of Lilly's description of his hero at style in fiction 14, The Beginning of Ulysses, which deserve our attention as the first novel in English. So here, the outline of our explanation about style as the dress of thought is about the beginning of the style used firstly in Renaissance age, and it is also appear in what we call here in the novel in English at the beginning of Ulysses. Okay, you can see here the use of style firstly used in the first novel in English at the Renaissance era or Renaissance mannerists as Sidney and Lilly. So maybe you can read the material given to find out specifically or deeply about what the novel is, what the novel talk about. Okay. Okay. Here we have the what we call it the diagram or the figure about the style as manner of expression, or specifically another kind of dualism. Like I said previously, there is the contrast between dualism and monism as presented in the figure below. So dualism is affected by the choices of content, okay, or combined with the choices of content. Meanwhile, monism is affected with choices of expression, mean choices of content. So from the choices of content will make or will produce here the content itself. Meanwhile, in monism, will produce the choices of expression. Okay, choices, sorry. In monism, there is no product that is brought about. Meanwhile, from the what we call the empty product, there will be the choices of expression style with form in dualism. Dualism and monism is constructed. In dualism, there will be content and form. In monism, there is what we call it the influence of choices of expression, means choices of content, but there is no product here. There is no what we call it a result. Okay, result from what we call here the product from the monism. Meanwhile, in dualism, there are content and also the form itself. Okay, as you can see, you can study the differentiation between dualism and monism here. So dualism gives the result to the content and form, while monism is only affected with choices of expression. Here means the choices of contents. There is no product produced here with the monism. Okay, here I will describe between dualist and monist specifically and comprehensively. Okay, the dualists hold that there can be different ways of conveying the same content. The monists hold that this is a mistake and that any alteration of form entails a change of content. So here, the dualists hold what we call here the same content. Okay, while the monists hold any alteration of form entail a change of content. Dualists specifically projected only the same content, meanwhile the monist only focuses to the alteration of form entail a change of content. The same content for dualists and the alternation of content in monists. And then we have the distinction again between dualist and monist. The dualist gains credence from the everyday use of the word style as a manner of doing something, as reflected in dictionary definition and as applied outside language to other art forms such as music, painting, and architecture, and to varied activities such as playing the piano or playing dance. So here, the dualist gains credence from the everyday use of the word style as a manner of doing something. Okay, as a manner of doing something. For example, in music, painting, or architecture, and to varied activities such as playing the piano or playing chess. And then in such activities, there are assumed to be some invariant element which have to be performed. For example, conforming to the rules of tennis, but there are variant ways in which the individual may perform them. For example, in choice of backhand, forehands, volleys, such as analogy is used by Richard Hoffman, a modern apostle of dualism. So here, when we want to know or understand systematically or deeply about what is meant by the invariant elements which have to be performed, for example, conforming to the rules of tennis, okay, invariant elements of dualists. So there are variants in which the individual may perform them, okay, in choice of backhands, forehands, volleys. Such as analogies is used by Richard Hoffman, a modern apostle of dualism. So here, you are ordered to define it by using the what we call it the analogy. the analogy of conforming to the rules of tennis. When you want to, what we call here, in understanding about the dualist itself. So here, in conforming the rules of tennis, there are variant ways in which the individual may perform, such as in choice of backhand, forehand, and volleys. Okay, like that. So next, okay. Here we also describe about the pluralism, analyzing style in terms of function. So style is quite difficult to be understood because it is about the way, or what we call it, the kinds of expressing prose itself by what we call it, the style, the way you express the language. Okay. According to the pluralist, language performs a number of different functions, and any piece of language is likely to be the result of choices made on different functional levels. So, pluralist is put their principle, okay, to the number of different functions, and a piece of language is likely to be the result of choices made on different functional levels. Okay. Every language has any piece to be the result of choices that made on different functional levels. So here, hence, the pluralist is not content with the dualist division between expression and content. He wants to distinguish various strands of meaning according to the various functions. So here, various strands of meaning according to the various functions are very important in, okay, in determining the content between pluralist and dualist. The pluralists add the idea that language is intrinsically multifunctional, so that even the simplest utterance conveys more than one kind of meaning. For example, is your father feeling better? May be simultaneously referential, referring to a person and his illness. Directic, demanding a reply from the hearer, and social, maintaining a bond of sympathy between speaker and hearer. So here, you have to be able to distinguish between what is simultaneously referential, directive, and social. Okay, so when you listen or when you hear what we call it here, the interrogative, is your father feeling better? Okay, it's normally, okay, it's normally refers to the illness. It's normally refers to the illness of your father based on the referential. However, based on directive function, it refers to the demanding a reply from the hearer. So the hearer must give the reply if you are asked the question, like I said before. Meanwhile, in social function, it refers to maintain a bond of sympathy between speaker and hearer. So it is the main concern of pluralists in determining or delivering their idea in the style of language. Okay. Next, I will show you the figure about a multi-level approach to style. The dualists capture the insight that two pieces of language can be seen as alternative ways of saying the same thing. That is, there can be stylistic variant with different stylistic values. Stylistic variant with different stylistic values. There are two kinds of stylistic variant conceptualization and variant expression, which are figure below. So when you are asked by your friends, maybe in the next lecture, about how many stylistic variants are there? There are two kinds. The first one is variant conceptualization, and the second one is variant expression. So, what is the difference between variant conceptualization and variant expression? You can see from the diagram below. Variant conceptualization, it's about the fiction and it brings to or produces the sense. Meanwhile, variant expression refers to the sense and sense brings about the surface or syntax here. Okay, I think that's all for today. And the last slide is your homework that should be done well. Okay, I think that's all for today. Thank you very much for your attendance and great participation. And as usual, before close the meeting, I will send the link of the attendance. Okay, please fill in your personal identity into our attendance list. Okay, and then don't forget to help me after having the lecture in checking the attendance of your friends by using eCampus application. Well, I think that's all. Thank you for the time. See you next week. Have a nice day. Goodbye.